So you've probably heard a lot about natural wines these days, but what exactly is a natural wine? What does it mean? I'm sure you've seen it in some of your wine stores, maybe there's a new shelf, but what do we exactly mean when we talk about natural wine? Well, natural wines are not a specific type of wine. They're not even by law, well, France is trying to work on that, but they're not by law a specific definition to natural, just like you might see clean wine. These are not regulated words, and so it's a little bit difficult to explain what they are. However, there are some ideas that we have around the idea of natural wine that can sort of be applied for when you're picking out a wine. Most of the time, a natural wine refers to not adding extra additives to the winemaking process. So doing minimal intervention and making the wine just as simple as it could be, from wine, press, ferment, bottle. There you have it. So in this sense, it's a little bit more natural because it's basically the most simplified version of winemaking that you could get. Some people might also argue that you need natural equipment or that you need organic grapes. Again, this is sort of up to everyone. It's not by law a definition, but it could be possible. In that case, you should look, however, for organic or bio on your wine label. So one of the most basic principles in natural wine is to possibly not add yeasts. So during the winemaking process, when it's time to ferment, a lot of winemakers add yeasts. They're yeasts that they have bought, that they have collected, that they can control. Instead, natural wine often might use the indigenous or native yeasts that are actually just found naturally on the grapes. There are yeasts everywhere around us, and so natural wine might just use the yeast that is there rather than adding an extra yeast. Then another way is that a lot of natural winemakers might choose not to filter or refine their wine. So for example, the wine I'm drinking today is a non-filtered, and it's hard to show you in the video, but down below you can actually see a lot of the sediment, right down to like these like crystals, and it's a little bit cloudy. So those wines are going to be a little bit cloudier. They're just going to have some like looking like dust at the bottom. This you might find in commercial wines, like especially reds, but in natural wines you're going to find it more. And it doesn't hurt your wine, don't worry, just be careful when you're pouring the last glass. You don't want to get a mouthful of sediment, but they're not harmful. So some winemakers might choose not to filter at all, just to bottle straight through. Other winemakers may still claim natural wine, but they might still filter their wine. However, they'll use a natural filter or a natural finer. If you remember, we talked about fining that a lot of people might add like clay, like bentonite clay. Egg white is another one, and technically egg white is a natural refiner, so you could use that. That's technically natural, right? Then of course the last thing, which I think that most people assume with natural wine, is that there are no extra additives. So there are no extra additives to help preserve that wine. So in this sense, people think and people assume that there are less sulfites in wine because more sulfite is not added. That is true. There are technically less sulfites in natural wine most of the time. However, even in commercial wine, you're not going to find that much sulfites. All wine contains sulfites, but you can find sulfites in everything. Sulfites are just a preservative. You can find them in your trail mix, in your like salty French fries, chips, anything of that sort. You're going to find them, and you're going to find them way more in especially like trail mix or something than you would in a glass or bottle of wine. So do not be afraid of sulfites. They're not going to hurt you. They're something that happens naturally. So if somebody is talking about a natural wine or searching for one, asking you for recommendations, you will sort of have to ask what they mean by that. Do they want skin contact? Do they not want skin contact? Do they want no additives? Do they want this thing called a pet nap? Do they want filtered, unfiltered? So there's like a whole range that you could explore with this natural wine, which is why it's so interesting to explore. And I definitely recommend checking them out. I also recommend not writing off natural wine just because of one bad experience. If you find that the sort of like funky tasting wines aren't really your thing, that doesn't mean that there are not naturally fermented and minimal intervention wines that don't fit your tastes. So check them out, explore a little. I also recommend trying them from other countries, so not sticking within maybe natural wine from the US or natural wine from France, but also check out the area of Armenia and Georgia, because these two countries have been making wine for thousands of years. They're actually sort of the birthplace of wine. And both of these countries, still to this day, use very minimal intervention techniques, a lot of the producers. So take a look, poke around, see if you can find wines from those areas, check out how the producer makes them, and try them out for yourself. So I hope you find one that you like. If you find one you like, drop the producer down below because I want to check it out and see how it is. So cheers!